Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another dose of your weekly rundown. Joined in, as always, by my co host all the way from the U. Glad I can do that again. My brother from another, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing good this week. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good, man. I'm feeling myself a little bit. Feeling myself a little bit. I can't front. And it's not because of predictions or anything like that. It's completely aside from things like Chris Middleton having good games and stuff like that. But anyway,
that's that's not what you should say right now.
um, let's get into it, man. Game three recap: the Milwaukee Bucks annihilate the Phoenix Suns. Giannis goes off for 40. Had some discussions with the media where they were trying to compare him to Michael Jordan with one of his finals performances where he dropped 40-point games back to back to back. Giannis goes out and says he is not Michael Jordan. What's your analysis on it, Kay? You know, Devin Booker, not a good game at all. Only 10 points. I call it the Kardashian curse. I'm calling it now. CP, 20 points, I believe. Came out in the post-game presser saying they need to build a wall, kind of copy what the Toronto Raptors and the Miami Heat have done against Giannis to have success against him in the Bucks. What you think, Kay?
I don't think there's nothing really special that the Bucks did against Devin Booker. Think he just had one of those bad games that players have sometimes. So I don't think there's nothing special that they really did against him. I just think he played bad. As far as the game goes, I think Drew Holiday stepped up really big. I said it after the game. His 21 was a big 21. Like I said, he hit three threes back to back in the third quarter to kind of keep the Warriors, the Suns, from making that run. They go small when DeAndre Ayton's in foul trouble. And while they're small, they put Cam Johnson at the five. Cam Johnson comes out at the five and kind of really makes an impact. He gets a big dunk on PJ Tucker, and he hits a couple threes, and he's the one who kind of really got the Suns back into the game in that third quarter. But Drew Holiday was able to hit three threes, like I said, to kind of withstand them from coming back. I think DeAndre Ayton being in foul trouble is another thing that hurt the Suns. So really, they're two young stars who have played really well in this playoff so far. Were kind of out of the game. Devin Booker maybe for just having an off night, and then DeAndre Ayton, the Suns decided to kind of put him on Giannis and see what he's going to be able to do. I never thought that was a good idea because I thought he didn't really have the foot speed to keep up with Giannis. So Giannis gets him into some foul trouble. He doesn't really get to play too much. Devin Booker doesn't have the best game. And then Giannis finally got some help. Everybody called out Giannis's players, other stars, role players, whatever, for not getting him no help. Giannis does the same thing he does in game two. The biggest difference is that Drew Holiday stepped up. Chris Middleton stepped up a little bit. I said he needed to play better on defense. I think he came out and gave a better defensive effort in that game. And all in all, the Bucks were able to get this one.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of malpractice on Monty Williams' part because we saw what Giannis was doing to DeAndre Ayton when they did like kind of catch each other on mismatches and things like that. He was straight bullying him. So just I didn't understand that one at all.
Yeah, I think they wanted to try something different. Like you said, CP came out and said they got to build the wall, but he wanted to try some other things where maybe they didn't have to send two, three, or maybe four at Giannis and kind of get those other guys going off. I think kind of we all have been saying that they don't want those other guys to get on a roll, and now maybe they might be on a roll if you mean Middleton is not going to be on his roller coaster anymore. I think that's what he kind of fear. So you think if you build that wall on Giannis, that potentially leaves other players open, and you don't want those guys getting going. So he tried to do a thing where it's like we don't want to send no doubles or triple teams at him yet. See, we was able to beat them in the first game without sending no double, triple teams or anything like that. So he was thinking maybe try the same and hopefully stop those other players from getting off.
Right. Um, Game four coming up tomorrow. With USA playing tonight, we definitely gonna talk about Team USA. But game four going on tomorrow. Is it 3-1 season, or we got a tied series going back to Phoenix? What you thinking?
I'm thinking it's going to be a tie series heading back to Phoenix. I think Middleton played good, but he didn't have the greatest game. I think Drew Holiday had a really good game, but I think this is the game Middleton needs to step up. He didn't play too good in Phoenix, and then he played okay in game three. So I think he's due for one of those outbursts that he has. You know how he is, the up and down roller coaster type of guy. He is. He can go off for 50 in a quarter and then not give you nothing for 3 games. So I think it's his time to step up and have a big game, and the Bucks really need it. So I think they're still not going to be able to stop Giannis. So that's going to be a thing. It's just going to depend. The rest of the series is going to depend on what role players step up and give Giannis some help. So I think Game 4 would be Middleton's game to step up.
I would like to point out that every time you say this is the game Middleton needs to step up, he usually does. So
Because there's a lot of games that he needs to step up. So it's a very common thing. So if that is a thing, that's good for the Bucks. So I see it being tied 2-2, going back to Phoenix. And then after that, Game 5 is anybody's game. And I think the pressure's back on Phoenix. And then the Bucks are kind of rolling, maybe have the ball rolling a little bit. But like I always say, role players play better at home. So they're going to have to figure something out again when they get back on the road.
yeah, man, and like we've kind of said over the last couple months with certain things, when the facts change, so does my opinion. Definitely hit you up after game 2 saying this was ending in 5. So after saying I thought this was going to be a 7-game series, I mean, because of what you just said, you don't think that you didn't think that Milwaukee really did anything special. It was more of a off night for Devin Booker, Ayton being in foul trouble, which was malpractice on Monty Williams' part as the coach. I don't know, man. I could see 3-1. This is what I told you off camera. I got to stick with it on camera. So
I would. No, I was gonna say I wouldn't say the Bucks didn't do. I didn't think they did nothing special defensively against Devin Booker. Offensively, I guess they didn't really do nothing special either. Just those guys stepped up. But when those guys step up, they're like a totally different team. So they didn't do nothing special, but they just did what they needed to do, and that's all they're really gonna need to do again in Game 2 to get the win.
right. Got a question here early. Mike E. Fresh, my guy. It has been way too long. Haven't seen you in a while. How
But I'm mighty fresh.
Right. How impactful is this series for CP3's legacy? We actually talked about this a couple shows ago. I don't really think it's CP3 solidified, with where he's at. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think that him losing this series hurts him. I think it'll only just add on to an already Hall of Fame career. Like we talked about his impact as a player on teams, literally since he got to the league. He was drafted by New Orleans as a lottery pick. They're a playoff team the year after. You know, goes to Clippers, laughingstock organization, turns them into what we were calling them title contenders, even though they never got to a conference finals. Goes to Houston, is a game away from playing in the NBA finals till he gets hurt. Goes to Oklahoma City, the team is supposed to be in the lottery. He brings them to the postseason. And then he goes to Phoenix, which hasn't seen the finals since Charles Barkley's days, hasn't been to a Western Conference finals since Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire were over there. And they're back in the conference finals, only 2 wins away they're back in the NBA finals, only 2 wins away from being NBA champs. So, I mean, he's solidified.
Yeah, we talked about this on Tim's show. I think it solidifies him in the sense when you start talking about barbershop talk, is what I brought it up on Tim's show. I think when you think about certain players like AI, Westbrook, Harden, there's going to be certain players who may not win a championship, but some of the things that they were able to do, like get a team to the finals. AI doesn't have a championship, but when you bring him up, everyone always says, look what he did with that 2001 76ers team. He got that team to the finals. He got 1 game against Shaq. I think that's where it helps his legacy a little bit. I think a lot of people, to Rich's point a few shows ago, didn't want to put CP in the top 5 because he's never been to NBA finals, because he never won an NBA championship and different things like that. So I think this only helps his legacy in that sense when it comes to kind of like barbershop talks and arguments and debates and different things like that. So now people are going to be able to say, like, here's all his stats, and he led this team to the NBA finals. Whether they win, whether they lose, I think it only helps his legacy. And then that's going to make that conference finals run with the Rockets look even better. So now in barbershop talks and arguments, I think that helps his legacy already. But to what Rich was saying, his legacy, NBA wise, like Hall of Fame wise, all that type of stuff was kind of cemented already. This just helps him in debates and arguments.
Let's move on here, man. Team USA. I don't remember if we talked about this on the show, but we definitely did talk about this. Team USA, even with them winning a gold medal in 2016, has not put out a great lineup, a great roster, sent a great team to the Olympic Games since 2012. Like that when they sent that team to 2012, we knew that team was unbeatable. We were kind of shaky on the 2016 team, and they almost did lose before they got to the gold medal to the championship game. Right now, they're in scrimmages. They lost to Nigeria, and then they also lost to Australia last night. Shout out Matisse Steibel. Usually, what he did, guys usually don't do that to KD. Um, and I mean, this is just crazy. This is just crazy to me, man. Like, what is it? Like, I don't. I'm trying to understand because they do have the NBA players there where it should be all right. You got a Dame Lillard who can win you a game by himself. You got a Kevin Durant who could win you a game by himself. I mean, I know they don't have a lot of time together, to really prep for the Olympics, especially with that thing coming up here soon. But what is it? Like I mean, we pointed it out. This just isn't a strong team to me.
I think it's kind of what you were just saying. We haven't really sent our best players out in a couple years, and then to I can't I can't think of it. Dame. To Dame's point, right? To Dame brought up how he's never played in the Olympics before, and how he's kind of still getting used to it. I think Jason Tatum's still getting used to it. There's a report coming out now that a lot of those young players are staring at the refs a lot and crying about fouls because they used to getting touch fouls in the NBA. So I think a lot of them are getting used to the change of the USA basketball, and I think some of them are getting used to playing with other great players and trying to figure out how you're going to fit in with a team full of great players. Now it's different to maybe play with one, two great players. Some of these guys aren't playing with any other great players or all stars, so they have to try to figure out where they're going to get in, where they're going to fit in. They're trying to figure out how they're going to do what they got to do off the bench in the limited time that they're getting. And I think Pop is still learning a little bit. It's on, I think, his second go around now trying to coach the team. And I think I think defensively is hurting them the most. I think the lack of bigs is hurting them. I think that's one thing they kind of need to figure out there. Also think that the overseas and Europe and different things like that, I think players are just generally getting better in the game of basketball with the popularity of basketball going on. And then I think that they need to figure out their late game offense. I think when it comes to the fourth quarter, if you looked at these two exhibition games, they kind of just stare at Kevin Durant a lot, and they kind of look to Kevin Durant to make something happen. And it seems like a lot of those other players are, I don't want to say scared to score the ball, but it's like I said, they're all just kind of looking at Kevin Durant. And I think that can't not be your offense right now. Now, obviously, Kevin Durant's one of the greatest Olympic players we've ever seen, but he is coming off an Achilles injury. He is coming off trying to carry the Nets in the playoffs. I think he needs some rest. I was even thinking that maybe they should try to rest him for a couple of these exhibition games. Let these other guys get some run. Let them play together. We know what Kevin Durant can do with other great players and on a USA team. So I think they have some things they need to figure out, and that's kind of most of them.
Yeah, man, absolutely, absolutely. I wasn't gonna bring this up, but I got to anyway. So outside of Team USA, Canada had the most NBA players of any team, trying to get into the Olympics. They ended up getting knocked out by a team with only I think one or two NBA players on it. Your boy Wiggins was on that team. RJ Barrett, who shout out Rashad, shout out my boy Rashad, man. Rashad, I remember I was talking to Rashad the other day, and we were talking about like he's a Knicks fan, so we're talking about the Knicks, and I'm saying like the same things I've been saying on the show. The Knicks have the best trade package available to go get Damian Lillard. And he's like, you're not about to say who I think you're about to say. I'm like, you got to give up RJ Barrett. He's like, no way. This is what I mean about people sometimes, man. You would rather still keep RJ Barrett than Damian Lillard? And the argument was, well, what are you gonna put around him? The free agency class isn't that great. That's okay. All you got to do is get Dame over there, and then a year from now, let him do his thing. Bring another star in. But you're gonna tell me you would rather keep RJ Barrett, who couldn't lead the Canadian team to the Olympics with all that talent around him, over Damian Lillard? A little crazy to me.
I mean, that's just typical Knicks fans for you. I think, Knicks have been not the Knicks have been ruined so much. Knicks fans have been ruined so much that they're kind of tired of giving up some of their young pieces and giving up their future for a star who gets there and kind of maybe doesn't play his best. You think about, I don't want to say Carmelo Anthony because Carmelo Anthony came over there and played his best, but they didn't win too much for him. They had that one great season, and you think about all the other stars they got maybe on their last leg that didn't play too well. So I think the Knicks are just they're I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now, but they are just torn. They're stuck because every time they trade for a star player, it seems to not work out. So they want to maybe hold on to their young players. But that's Knicks fans for you, right? They're scarred. The Knicks fans are scarred from all their other bad transactions that they don't even know what to do right now.
Their parents Knicks, bro. I shouldn't say that because their parents saw some good Knicks teams. These ain't the Knicks I'll say, yeah. These ain't the Knicks that they've been used to watching the last 10 plus years, man. They're a little different. They might be back. So they might get that transaction that works out this time.
It's like
That's
after
I didn't want it to be a mellow thing. But honestly, the Melo thing was not bad. Yes, they gave up a lot to get Carmelo Anthony, but that team went to the playoffs 2 years in a row, won a playoff series, first playoff series that they won in over a decade since they went to the NBA Finals. And you know what happened? Management didn't want to pay and decided to blow the rest of the team up. If they don't blow that team up, that's a playoff team for another 2-3 years.
Yeah, I think it wasn't bad for the sense that it gave the Knicks something they didn't have in a long time, the excitement and kind of having that star player there. Everything didn't work out, but like you said, they got two playoff runs out of it. They could have. Some people thought they had a chance to beat the Heat that year, so they got that excitement and it got a star player to want to go there. So that's kind of all they needed. Obviously, things kind of trickled down and broke apart after that, but just to get the star player to go there, I think was something exciting for the Knicks that they need to not take for granted.
We got some NBA trade buzz going on, man. You ready for this? I didn't need to play flex back. Definitely need to play. The Philadelphia 76ers are now starting to get in the trade talks regarding star guard Ben Simmons. We've heard that there are offers, talks, not offers, but talks that have gone on between them and the Portland Trailblazers, the Golden State Warriors, the New York Knicks, and a couple other teams as well. So now I have said that the only team that seems like they can actually field a legitimate offer that the Philadelphia 76ers want to take is the Portland Trailblazers. They want an all-star caliber player in return. None of these teams have that to offer except for Portland. What are you thinking when you see all this stuff? Let me just add, this isn't the situation where they're a team that's blowing things up. They want picks back. Philadelphia doesn't want having picks and a couple of solid players doesn't help Philadelphia's situation. They're after a title, so they need something that's going to bring them a championship.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting because it's what Philly can get back. Like you said, they don't want no young players. They're going to want another person. They're going to want to trade them for another star or all-star player that can come in, and they're going to need to trade them for a point guard. So I think it kind of limits maybe some of their options. So there's some teams maybe like the Rockets or something that could have offered something nice, maybe like the Warriors, the 7th and the 14th pick, or the Rockets, the second pick, the Detroit, maybe the first pick. But those are teams you kind of don't want to trade them to because they don't give you that star player back. They give you something for the long-term future, but the 76ers are trying to win right now. So I don't know. In Ben Simmons' case, I seen a trade that I think would be very interesting. I seen that they've been talking with the Sacramento Kings about De'Aaron Fox. I think that'd be a very interesting trade.
You know what? I like that because I've consistently said De'Aaron Fox is the best point guard to come out of that draft. You could say Donovan Mitchell, but Donovan Mitchell's really a combo guard. I mean, he's better than Lonzo at this point. We'll talk about Lonzo in a little bit too. Who else is in that draft? He's better than Dennis Smith Jr. He's better than Frank Ntilikina. Trying to think what other guards were in there. Point guards. He's better than Markelle Fultz. It sucks, man, because you know what? The Sacramento Kings actually don't like. They have a nice, good group of young talent. What I think is hurting them a ton is coaching, and I don't know what Luke Walton has done to not get fired because it's glaring that coaching is a huge problem over there, and we've seen, we just talked about the Knicks, but other teams as well. When you get the right coach in there, good things happen. So we know they have the talent, but there's other factors there as to why they're in such a bad situation. But with all that being said, he could probably take them places. You swap them out. I mean, Ben might not like being in Sacramento, but De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento with the things he can do and Joel Embiid, that might be something.
Yeah, I think yeah, like you said, he's probably the best point guard out of that draft, and he's been the Kings' best player for a while now. He definitely has all star, maybe superstar potential. He just, like you said, on the Sacramento Kings, they have been kind of basketball Siberia for a little while now. I don't even know if it's just coaching. They might have to change the whole offense around. I don't know if they did that recently, but the Kings have not been really a good team in recent history. So I think it's just something wrong. Marcus Bagley Jr. wants to get out of there. There's just something wrong going on over there because they have some talented players. The Kings, the Sacramento situation just hasn't been great. So I think you get him out of Sacramento. Like you said, Ben Simmons probably doesn't want to be there, but at this point, that's not the Sixers' problem. So you get him over there. You maybe can get a Bagley or someone else or a draft pick or something else in the trade too. And then that also solidifies Philly a little bit for the future because even if maybe you end up losing Joel Embiid or something or anything like that, you still have De'Aaron Fox who looks like he's going to be a very great point guard for the next 10 years or so. I think you get him in the Eastern Conference. He's possibly has a chance on that Sixers team that's going to win a lot. He has a chance to be All-Star next year.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the Eastern Conference too, like him being on a team like that with the talent around him is going to unlock a lot of things. Like I said, if you that I would if I'm Daryl Morey, I might entertain that one.
Hey, if you think about it, he's been able to be pretty good with the pieces that he has around him and that kind of dysfunction that's kind of going over there in Sacramento. So, like you said, you get him over there, and he's still one of the fastest players with the ball right now. So, I think you get him over there with those guys, and Doc Rivers as a coach, he'll just be great.
Speaking of the New York Knicks again, if you remember at the trade line, the guy they were most engaged in getting was Lonzo Ball. And right now, we have been told, this ain't Knicks talk, by the way, just had to enter it in by bringing them up. We have been told Lonzo Ball is being pursued by teams like the Chicago Bulls and the LA Clippers. And the New Orleans Pelicans might just let him walk in free agency. They're not expected to match any significant offer sheet for him. Makes sense. I mean, I like him for the things he can do, but he's just not that dude as far as like this might come off disrespectful, but I mean, he's kind of put himself in this position. He's kind of like Ricky Rubio. But for real, like he's not a great scorer. You could talk about he should 38% from three or something like that. I don't even think he kept that up the whole year. I know at one point he was actually shooting okay from three, but he's not a great shooter. He's not a scorer. The aggressiveness isn't there, but he's a good floor general. He can control the pace of a game. He can set guys up. That's what Ricky Rubio is.
Yeah, but I think Alonzo Ball's jump shot's maybe a little better than that. I can see what you're saying though. They are kind of maybe the similar player right now. I guess he's been in two spots right now. Some people may take a chance on him just like you said, for his passing ability is still there. I think some people think if you can get him in the right spot, maybe you can get the best out of him. Maybe these last two spots wasn't the greatest spots for him. Definitely in LA. So if I'm the Pelicans, I guess I wouldn't mind losing him too much. But now it's kind of they need to get another point guard over there, especially with Zion.
I think that David Griffin will be pretty diligent in free agency and maybe the trade market as far as getting whatever it is that they need to keep Zion happy. We got the rumors that the coaching change was because of a difference there between Van Gundy and Zion. Shout out to Pelicans, by the way. They found their man, Willie Green, longtime Suns assistant. I mean, he's a part of that staff that's coaching in the NBA Finals right now. So
Yeah, definitely. I think they have to. I don't know if I said this on here, if I said this on the podcast with Tim. They have to get this right. Like I said, New Orleans. You think about it, they lost AD, they lost CP in the last 20 years. Both of those guys have it. One won a championship last year. One has a chance to win a championship this year. They both could have been or should have been, and maybe should still be in New Orleans. So I think the David Griffin over there has to get things right. They kind of can't get this wrong. Is what I said before, because then you're just your third superstar in maybe the last 30 years, 20 years, or something like that. That just wouldn't be too good. And with them being the smallest market in the NBA and not making the most money, I think the NBA needs for them to get it right too.
yeah, most def. Some other tidbits to get over here. Now we got Knicks talk, baby. I don't have the music to play them. Can you believe it? I don't have the music to play. But whatever.
I'm pretty sure the crowd is a little disappointed in you for not having it.
Sorry, man. Next time. So the Knicks need a point guard, right? Apparently they have the answer. It isn't Lonzo Ball. It's another Rashad is popular on the show, man. It isn't Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
I don't know why anyone thought that was an option.
It isn't Chris Paul. The Knicks are seriously engaged in talks more than any other team to trade for Cleveland Cavaliers point guard Colin Sexton. I'm gonna let you take that one.
I don't think it's bad. He's a young player. If you look, he's been pretty well in the league. I think Cleveland is just another bad spot to be in right now when LeBron James is not there. It's just not the greatest spot. You see, he's definitely competitive. You looked at him in college, you looked at him in the NBA, and I think Cleveland drafted back-to-back point guards in the year. They have I can't think of his name right now. I don't know why names are just not in my head today, but I can't think of his name right now. He's with the USA team, and he seems like he's the better point guard right now. And he's definitely the better shooter. So I think the Knicks think he has the type of team that the Knicks have right now. He has that Knick attitude right now. He's kind of one of those gritty guys who's going to go out there. He's going to defend. He's going to play really hard. So I think it could really work out for the Knicks, especially if he wants to be there. I think he kind of fits the culture that they're building right now perfectly because he's still that hard-nosed playing. Remember, in college, he played a 3-on-5 and almost won the game for him. So he's just that type of competitor.
Dude is a scorer. He definitely is a bona fide scorer. I will give him that. Like I think the Knicks really do need, and that's why a lot of fans and even their front office at one point were all in on getting Lonzo Ball over there, because they need a floor general, somebody that's going to be able to set up and control the pace of play and things like that. It's not him. He can definitely pass the ball and whatnot. I'm not going to name names or whatever, because I see it with like a Jordan LeBron debate when they tell, Jordan had 10 assists. Not all passes are created equally, man. You know what I mean? You're not going to say this person is a better passer than this person or whatever. But he can pass the rock. He just is not like a floor. He's not a floor general. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of in the middle on that one for them, just for the fact that like it gets them probably the best point guard that they've had in a while. I mean, Quickly's pretty good, but he's another one. He's not really a point guard. He's a combo guard. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about that one, but I'm not going to say it's bad or good.
I see what you're saying though, but if they're going to keep D Rose, you may not need him to come in and be that floor general. D Rose, especially playoff time, he's going to be the one to come in and get those minutes. I think you give him a chance. What happened?
D Rose isn't really a floor general either. He like this past year, like at one point he was the best player on the Knicks, but he was just out there scoring.
But that's because that's what they needed him to do. No one else was scoring at that time, so he went out there and did what he did. But I think D Rose can run a team if you need him to run a team. And if I look at it between those two options, I probably rather want D Rose running my team right now. And I would rather Sexton kind of, like you said, he's not a floor general, so I would rather him kind of just going out there and being that scorer. It takes some pressure off of D Rose in the backcourt, and then he can go run that team like you need to. Especially all the years he spent with Tibbs, he knows how Tibbs wants his team run and the teams that maybe and the plays that they kind of maybe want run at a certain time. So if they're gonna keep D Rose, I wouldn't mind him coming in, a young energy guy who's going to play hard, like I said, fit their culture. And D Rose is really the guy you're going to lean on for all that veteran leadership and running the team.
We heard the rumors, and that's kind of why he's on the trade block now, along with you. You talking about Darius Garland, right? All with the fact that they got Darius Garland over there. They tried the experiment of having both of them in there, and it just didn't work out. But we heard the rumors that a lot of the teammates over in Cleveland were not fans of his because they just felt like he didn't really know how to play basketball. When we say he doesn't know how to play basketball, we're not saying he's a scrub. But what is meant by that is he's just kind of going out there doing his own thing, like basically not a team player and everything. And that's has a lot to do with all these high scoring games that he was having. Do you feel like that could carry over to the Knicks situation and kind of mess things up a little bit over there? You think they could get him right?
I think the Knicks can get him right. Kind of what I was saying. The people, the statement that you just made and the statement that really they made that you were just re-saying, it's kind of exactly what we want from him on the Knicks. We want you to just come in here. We want you to play hard, and then you get, like I said, you get him with Tibbs, you get him with D Rose. Those guys can maybe get him a little more under control. But you have D Rose for that to control the team and different things like that. We don't need you to do nothing. You know how Tibbs is. We don't need you to do nothing but come in here and play hard. And one thing you can say about that kid is he's gonna come out and he's gonna play hard every time down the court. I think the Knicks would get him in that culture and try to figure it out from there. Like I said, whether you got to move him to the two a little more, let D Rose run the team, or do whatever you got to do. But I think the issues that he was having in Cleveland, you know, they say one man's trash, another man's treasure. I think the issues he was having in Cleveland is be exactly what the Knicks fans see him diving on the floor, doing all that type of stuff. The Garden be going crazy. And Tibbs, you know how Tibbs likes it. So I think they'll take that, and that'll be their treasure.
No, well, you might have just sold him because he's actually a pretty solid defender. And that's what you talk hard, obviously going out there playing hard, but Tibbs likes defense. That's his thing. So yeah, you might have sold. You know what? You might have sold me on that.
And Tibbs likes people who's going to just play hard, and they're going to kind of figure it out from there. So if one thing the Knicks needed in this playoff run is a guy like that was going to go out there and play hard. They had Taj Gibson doing it for some games, trying to do what he can. But if they had a younger player, maybe guard, who can come out there and give them the same thing, which quickly did it a little bit, they could have used him in this playoff run. Someone that's going to bring some heart and some toughness and play hard every night to get the rest of those guys going. Especially with the way the Garden crowd be rocking, I can see him diving on the floor doing crazy stuff, and the Knicks fans going to just eat that up. They're going to love it.
It definitely does something for the Knicks. It still only maybe solves one of their issues, not the whole thing, because you bring him in there, you still don't have that number one option over there, and that was very apparent that they need that after this playoff series against Atlanta.
I mean, that's true, but you got a little better. That number one option may not come this summer. I think when the number one option becomes available, the Knicks will definitely probably be in for it. But if it, like you said, it only solves one issue. But one of those issues is kind of out of your control in the fact that you don't know when a star player or that number one option may become available. So you solve your other issues while you can right now and kind of let the rest fall away maybe and be ready when the time comes.
The Houston Rockets are diligently trying to get the first overall pick from the Detroit Pistons. Rockets currently have the second overall pick. What exactly can the Rockets do to get that pick from Detroit? I don't know what Detroit would want. You know, obviously you're swapping 1 and 2, but then you're gonna have to get a bunch of other picks there. Now they got some draft capital between trading Russ and trading Harden. Might get some more because we don't expect John Wall to be there much longer. But what you think, man? What's going on over there?
I told you guys this before. Mike was on the show. If I'm Detroit, I'm not trading that pick whatsoever. They need this number one pick to kind of turn their franchise around. But if they're more maybe high on Jalen Green or Mobley,
You think before I cut you off, do you think it's like a Philly Boston situation where they know exactly who they want and see that this team wants this guy, so kind of they might fleece him?
If that's the case, I would do it, but I don't think they. I think the guy they should want should be Cunningham. If you think about it, I think that's the guy who seems more like he's going to change your franchise right now. But if you fall in love with one of those other players, I would. I was going to say I would trade down and maybe ask for a pick next year because you expect even with the Houston Rockets getting Cunningham, they're not going to be a good team next year. You just talk about Wall's probably going to be out of there. They're kind of in a rebuilding phase, so they'll be back in the top 5, maybe top 10 again next year. So in order for me to give it up if I'm Detroit, I would have to fleece you. I'm gonna need that second pick, which is only moving one down, and I'm gonna need next year's first round pick, maybe unprotected, and maybe a couple second round picks. If I get another first round pick out of you in a couple years, maybe long down the line, I would definitely do it. But it would take a lot for me to think about trading it to you. And I'm trying to think. Houston doesn't have no real young talent right now that they can also throw in a trade. At least not.
Yes, they do.
I mean, they're not getting not none they're going to give up. They're not giving up Kevin Porter Jr.
They're not giving up Christian Woods, and they're not giving up Kenyon Martin Jr. All good,
Yeah.
all guys that give you a lot of reason to like them.
Yes, but they're not trading none of those guys. So I didn't even consider them when I said made the statement. I did like they don't have nothing that I should say tradable. They have no good tradable young pieces that they're going to trade. Maybe Kevin Martin Jr. would be tradable, but I think Christian Woods is a little older too. But Kevin Porter Jr. is untouchable probably right now. So maybe Martin Jr., but I didn't see them giving up none of those guys. So it's like, will you take those guys off the table? They have no young tradable assets right now.
But that's been my thing about Houston, though, because I've said a couple of times I don't feel like they're that far away from being a playoff contender. Like I really like what they got over there. But I like Steven Silas as a coach. I like Kevin Porter Jr. I like Kenyon Martin Jr. I like Christian Woods. I think that they just need to get it. I was all in on Jalen Suggs. If they want to go with Jalen Green, he's kind of an anomaly here because he went to the G League and nobody really got to see a lot of him. I mean, if they want to go that route, like that's kind of because first of all, that's a little scary backcourt. Number one, with either of those two guys combined with Kevin Porter Jr. And I don't know, man. Houston, I don't know why Houston's so diligent. If it's true, I don't know why they're going to be so diligent. They must really think extremely highly of Cunningham.
I think a
As
lot
a
of people. I think a lot of people are extremely high on him. What the thing is, when you think about Mobley, obviously he's mobile and he has some skill,
they
but
should, like I was saying that from jump. They should not go after a center in this draft.
yeah, I was gonna say centers are kind of being washed out a little bit. And then Jalen Green, like you said, is an unknown. So it's like maybe if you fall in love with him in the workouts, maybe. But at this point, we kind of know more what we're gonna get from Cunningham right now than we do from those other players. So I can see why they would be in love with him and kind of maybe want to move up and get him. But I still think they're. I don't think they're as close to being a playoff contender as you do. They're in the Western Conference. I think they're gonna need a lot more. They have some young talent, which would be nice to see and play, but young talent doesn't always convert to wins. So they have some young talent, but I still think those guys need to learn and stuff before they're a playoff contender.
All right, man. Um, I told you I wanted to get into this one, so I have to. Dominique Foxworth, former NFL player, now works for ESPN as an analyst, has this weird obsession with Dak Prescott. He according to Dominique Foxworth, Dak Prescott is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know, and full disclosure, I'm a New York Giants fan, but I'm being very objective about this. I think Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback. I think he's the right guy for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he's a great. We've seen for all these numbers or whatever that he puts up in the regular season. Those are all cool. They had a quarterback before him that was doing stuff like that, but never got you anywhere in the postseason though. Matthew Stafford. I got to reiterate. Matthew Stafford is one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league. Talk to anybody who really watches football, dissects football, and whatnot. His passing, his passing ability, just the things he does. It's low key in that range of like a Rodgers or Mahomes. The problem is we don't talk about this stuff because Detroit is such an abysmal franchise. Like really, really bad. This is a franchise that had Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs of all time, Hall of Famer. Megatron, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, going into the Hall of Fame soon. And then him. Stafford and Megatron had a couple years together. Those guys look dynamic together. Stafford's issue was Megatron aside, no weapons. And then the biggest thing, well, no weapons, no defense. Biggest thing of all, no line. His career in Detroit, as far as support goes, was worse than the back half of Eli Manning's in New York. Now, here let me circle in on this trade with the LA Rams. I gotta give a shout out to my guy Dante that we had on here a couple weeks ago after we got the 100 subscribers. I had a conversation with him after the trade. He said that the Rams were stupid. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said the Rams were stupid. He liked Goff. Goff led them to the Super Bowl. And I like Goff too. I think Goff has shown us that he's a capable quarterback in this league. He's a starter in this league. But I have to remind everyone, Goff as the number 1 overall pick before Sean McVay looked like a complete bust. He did not look good at all. The Rams fire the coach, bring Sean McVay in. He institutes this new system that no one's ever seen before, gets Goff in this new system. He's night and day as a quarterback. Now, Goff and Sean McVay and maybe some guys upstairs in that organization weren't seeing eye to eye. You know, we hear the rumors that Goff was actually not listening to some of the things that McVay wanted to do. And the Rams have fallen off a little bit. And then you add in, they gave him this big time payday that's capped them as far as what they can do. They make this trade because number one, they just didn't want Goff over there anymore. But number two, McVay is looking at these other quarterbacks in the league. He's looking at a Patrick Mahomes. He's looking at an Aaron Rodgers when they play them. And he's saying, I don't have this type of quarterback as good as Goff is. And I want it because if I have this type of quarterback in my system, things are going to change. They have that type of quarterback now. And I said it when they made the trade on this show, and I'm going to say it again. The LA Rams, with the defense that they have, along with the weapons, and now you're plugging in Matthew Stafford over there, are title contenders. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if they don't go to the NFC Championship game. So it is crazy to me, after saying all that someone would have the unmitigated gall, I'm using big words, the audacity to say that Dak Prescott is easily a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. I test, people. I test.
I think it would have to do with kind of something you said at the start. You think Stafford was over there in Detroit and it hasn't been that great of a situation. And Dak Prescott's over there in Dallas. And even when Dallas is not in the greatest situation, people call them the American team. So they're going to be.
He's been in a great situation his entire career, though. He's got defense, and he's had one of the best lines.
I kind of meant when they're not winning. When they're not winning, because they haven't been winning as much. I guess they won a little bit, but like when they're not winning, people are still going to talk about Dallas. So that's the kind of point I was kind of getting at. So even if Dallas is not winning, Dak Prescott's going to be on TV. People are going to talk about him. His numbers are going to be out there. They're going to be in your face. With Matthew Stafford over in Detroit, it kind of maybe wasn't the same situation. It was kind of just like, oh, well, you know, it is what it is over there. So with Dak Prescott being in Dallas and kind of just the attention that Dallas gets, that kind of maybe where it comes from, and people are kind of thinking like, oh, Dak Prescott's the better quarterback and this and that, because he's kind of in your face more and you see him more and you hear the stats that he was doing more. I know I've seen Skip Bayless on there talking about how great he is, bringing up his numbers and different things like that. So it's kind of in your face a lot. No matter if they're winning, losing, Dak Prescott's numbers and his face is going to be on the TV. So people are just going to see and hear about him more and just think he's a better quarterback off of that.
But that's what I mean. You got to talk to football people. You know, Skip is a big TV personality or whatever, been covering sports for a long time. But a lot of people that know sports and whatnot never seen the things that he says. But
we have seen the hype stir even football or basketball people. You've seen the hype kind of change people's minds. So you can see how, kind of the point I was saying, when it's in your face and you're seeing the hype of it, you can see how certain people can, even though they know and they see the eye test, the hype can kind of get to you sometimes.
When you go on national television, so it's no question he's better than Matthews. Like I have to bring up the factors that Matthew Stafford's dealing with in Detroit. But then let's look at his actual film, the throws that he's making under duress, because he never really had protection. It's the stuff that he was doing is stuff I've never seen Dak Prescott do.
But that's like to what I was saying. It's because he was in Detroit and in that situation he was in. Anything is gonna be overhyped over there in Dallas, and people are kind of just gonna go for it. I think, like if you switch the quarterbacks on the teams during those,
Matthew Stafford was in Dallas. Dallas would have, at bare minimum, been in one NFC Championship game.
but that statement would be reversed too. If you switch those players on the teams, that statement would probably be reversed too. I think it's just the hype that Dallas gets and how Zach Prescott's kind of in your face and all that type of stuff. And in the situation Matthew Stafford was in, so people are gonna look at it as like I said, it's just you gotta let the hype get to you sometimes, and I think that's kind of what it's not even gonna be about the eye test some more. Like he can make a good pass like that, but they'll probably care more about Dak Prescott making maybe a average pass or a normal pass just because of the hype that they get over there. And people probably aren't watching Detroit as much, so it's kind of like not unless you're watching them like that. It's kind of probably part of the problem.
Detroit's got every Thanksgiving game. They're like the Knicks on Christmas.
Yeah, but like people are like they get the games because they're a big team and things like that. But people probably aren't paying as much attention, and because I think it's all a hype thing. The Dallas gets more hype. Matthew Stafford wasn't getting as more the hype that he was getting over there in Detroit, and I think that's kind of maybe what swayed the opinion. And it's national TV. I think some people could go on there sometimes. Those guys they get a little hyped up, getting their feelings, and they just scream out whatever they're thinking at the moment.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of hype going on this year. I can guarantee that. Before we close out the show, we gotta close out with this. There was a fight this weekend. Great card. We were on Tim's podcast. He was talking with might be talking to us about that after the show was over. McGregor Poirier 3. Now, a lot of great fights on that card, but we gotta talk about that main event: Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier knocked Conor McGregor out the second time they fought. They had fought years ago in their first fight where McGregor won. Let me just say this. Conor McGregor's fans are a little blinded by where he is as a fighter. Have been for a long time. I have been saying the same thing about Conor McGregor, even when he's on top. He is a very good fighter as far as MMA goes. We've seen in his career, again, even when he was on top, if you can get him past that first round, he'll start to fade. And that was one of the bigger. It actually happened earlier this fight when he fought Khabib. He got completely trashed, and you were talking about getting out that first round. You know, we're seeing his gas tank is gone and whatnot. Kind of the same. The Poirier fight was kind of the same thing. His gas tank was going. He gets knocked out. This fight, number one, he kind of went back to that moniker, getting real disrespectful like he did with Khabib. You would think he would have learned because him doing all that with Khabib just added more fuel to the fire for Khabib to go out and do what he did, and then ultimately after he won the fight, jump over the cage, go after more people. Poirier was winning that fight convincingly in the first round, mauling him a lot like Khabib did. Maybe again, his fans might say it was a freak thing. Go back and watch the tape on that fight. His kick. He was number one. He started off the fight throwing a lot of hard kicks. So that might have been one thing right there that maybe affected the status of his ankle. But then another kick that he threw, you go back and watch, Poirier did check that kick. And at the time, that's around the time where he goes to go back to land and then awkwardly lands and breaks his ankle. His ankle was already pretty compromised before that happened. For that to end up happening the way that it did, there's no way you can really argue that. But Conor McGregor is not a title fighter anymore. He can sell a fight for sure. He was trying to do it again, even after the fact, even saying more disrespectful stuff afterwards. But he is not a title fighter anymore. He's not on these guys' level. You know, he's not beating a Charles Oliveira. He's not going to beat Dustin Poirier if they were to fight a fourth time. I mean, you got a lot of these dudes in the UFC that are still kind of caping for him. I know he's made a lot of money for Dana White. And look, he did elevate, as whatever I feel about him, whatever. He did elevate the sport of MMA in the UFC. People that weren't really into MMA were watching MMA because Conor McGregor was the spectacle. He is that. But I personally feel like his mouth got him a lot further than his actual skill as a fighter did. He never defended his belt. And I mean, when he won his belt, you could say that was a freak thing. He definitely got in Jose Aldo's head. Jose Aldo rushed him and then quick punch. I think that fight would have went a little differently the second time they fought. But to sum this all up point blank, you can say, oh, he broke his ankle. He was losing that fight. And was not between the history of him as far as his gas tank goes and the way things were progressing in that fight specifically, he was not going to win that fight.
Yeah, definitely. I think from seeing the fight and just what everyone's saying, he was throwing a lot more kicks than maybe he normally does, which is interesting. So, and I think someone said something earlier where it's like someone heard like his foot crack in one of the kicks kind of before he broke his ankle, which is interesting. But like you said, I don't think he's really maybe a title fighter no more, but he definitely can sell a fight. If you look at how much money he's made in his career and different things like that, he definitely can sell a fight with just how much trash he talks and different things like that. And the hype that he had before, I think some people are still there. Like some people are still going to want to see him fighting, and some people are still going to be there to see him get beat up. So I think just because of the hype he had before and how much trash he talks, he's always going to be there to sell a fight. But like you said, I don't think he's maybe a title fighter no more. But we'll see how it goes, because if he bounced back from this injury and maybe learned something from this fight, and maybe he can get back to that point. But we're going to see kind of how it goes from here, because he's going to have to get his foot, recover his foot and different things like that. So maybe during that time he can kind of think of new techniques and new ways to become a better fighter and different things like that, so he can get back out there and maybe get back to that title fighting level. But I think he's always still going to be there right now, because like I said, he talks so much junk that at worst, people are just going to want to see him get beat up. But if that's not the case, some people still maybe are still believe in him a little bit from the hype that he had.
I mean, we've all seen the Chappelle show. Him at the end of that fight still running his mouth with his broken ankle definitely reminded a lot of us of that Rick James did after Rick James got beat up by Eddie Murphy, Charlie Murphy, when he's just doing the crawl away.
Yeah, because he, like you said, he's still, that's him, and that's who he's gonna be, and that's what helps him sell fights. So I don't think I would think even if he got beat up, he was still gonna be talking. I mean, he did get beat up, but even if he got like knocked out, I thought when he got up, he's probably still gonna be talking some junk. So that's just who he is. That's just what got him this far. So with how the fight ended, I don't think he was just gonna be like, oh well, he's still gonna talk junk on his way out.
And he was salty. He was definitely salty, and he made it a point to say like, oh, it was a doctor's stoppage, because it feeds his ego, number one, to convince himself. Even it was a doctor's stoppage, but again, buddy, you were losing that. You were definitely losing that fight. So it feeds his ego, number one, and it's easier for him to come back from.
Yeah,
there's a good chance they might in maybe 2 years. He would lose again. He's already started to before that injury, but you remember when Anderson Silva lost to Chris Weidman, and then they fought the second time, and he broke his leg off a checked kick. Anderson Silva was never the same, and a lot of that was due to age. Here's the other thing that people need to understand: Anderson Silva was a lot, not in his prime during that time as far as a fighter goes when that happened to him. Conor McGregor's still a little bit younger. I don't think he lives the lifestyle. I don't think his head's in it. On top of the fact that I don't think his skill is up to par with a lot of these guys currently at the moment. You're going to start to see him look a lot like Anderson Silva was when he came back from that second loss to Chris Weidman. You're gonna see him lose a lot more if he keeps choosing to fight. Or he's gonna start taking a lot lower level fights just to get out there.
It's possible, and I can see that happen because, like I said, he's still gonna sell. So I think the UFC and the money that he's gonna make, he's still gonna want to get out there, whether the situation is like he has to take lower fights or whatever. But I think he still might get out there, like you said. That doctor stoppage is only boosting his ego, so he probably feels like he still had a chance to win that fight. So I think he's still going to want to get out there, and maybe if he gets the opportunity to get out there and fight with those guys, even if you may think that he's not on that level, I think he still has that confidence to think that he's on that level and still thinks that he can win. And plus, he still can sell the fight, so I think Dana White still possibly may put him in the ring with some of those guys if the opportunity sells, because this in these businesses, money is kind of what needs to be made.
It's still a show at the end. It's a fight, but it's definitely still a show at the end of the day. And you can't deny that he definitely does bring that. But I think we're both on the same page here when we say he's not a title fighter anymore.
No, not anymore. But anything can happen. But nah, and I think part of it too is kind of like I was saying. This gives him some time maybe to go rethink his strategy with the ego that he has, and he may not even think that he, like I said, he's a doctor stopper, so he's probably just thinking I just need to get back out there and stick to kind of what I was doing,
Do
which
it.
could be a bad thing for him.
He should do it. I hope he does.
I think maybe when if he starts getting lower level fights, I think that's maybe when it may hit him, and he'll either retire or get his stuff together.
Look, and people might call me a hater, man, but let's look at the resume. The Aldo win was big, but again, that was a little, the way that went down was a little crazy. Who has he really beaten? Honestly, if you look at his MMA career, who has he really beaten that wowed you outside of, you want to bring up Aldo, even with what I'm saying? He beat Eddie Alvarez to get the belt at 155. Eddie Alvarez wasn't that great of a fighter. He was no match for Conor McGregor. And then everything else was non-title, but he almost lost it to get the Aldo fight. He was losing to Chad Mendes, and that was the first time that I said, "Yo, this dude, if you can get him past the first round, you have a shot of beating him." But outside of that, who's he fought? He fought Nate twice in nine title bouts. He lost one. He beat him the second time, but I can make the argument he should have lost that fight. And then after that, he goes and he fights with, was Floyd before or after Nate? I don't remember.
I
He
don't
fights
remember it.
Floyd in a boxing exhibition. We all knew he wasn't going to win that because boxing isn't MMA.
That was the
Then
start of his downfall.
he goes and he fights Khabib, and Khabib was the best fighter that he's ever fought, and he got destroyed.
And he was coming off a high at that time. You think about that Floyd fight and all the money he made off of that, and just the hype for him to get that fight. So, yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying. Like, kind of what we were saying this whole time. He may, the hype that he had in his ability to sell fights is always going to be the reason why people want to see him. It may be the reason why the hype is just there for him. So that may be the reason why going forward he still may get some fights. It's just the ability to sell fights is kind of what's going to get him far.
He'll get fights, and that's kind of what I was saying when I started this off. I feel like his mouth got him a lot further than his actual skill as a fighter. Is. I just want people to think about that. Who is he actually beating?
But but unfortunately in this business, if you can sell fights, it can probably get you farther than maybe. And if you can sell fights, and because he won, he was winning. I mean, things have turned around. It hasn't been as great for him, but he was winning.
Look at how quick the turnaround was, because he never defended a belt. He never defended any of his belts. Look at how quick the turnaround was. He went. He has this crazy knockout in like 10 seconds against Jose Aldo. Never defends the 145 belt. Just moves up to 155 because they allowed him to do it. Eddie beats Eddie Alvarez, who again Eddie Alvarez was not on his level. As good as Eddie Alvarez will kill me. I'll admit that. I'm just telling you from what I'm seeing. Even though he was champ, he was not at that level as a Conor McGregor. He beats Eddie. Never defends the 155 belt. Has to vacate it. Khabib ends up winning it. And the Nate thing, like Nate's kind of like him. He's a fun fighter to watch. People love him because he runs his mouth and stuff. I can make the argument I can make the argument he should be 0-2 against Nate. Just all I'm saying. Who is he really beating? And then since he won the belt, it was really a downfall since he won the belt because he never I think his one win. If I'm wrong, I am wrong. You can come and tell me I'm wrong. I think since he's won the belt, his one win in MMA, in combat sports, period, was the second fight against Nate.
Probably. I don't remember. I think it may be a couple things. I think the hype kind of started getting to him a little bit. And when you get that hype, you may be thinking that you don't maybe need to develop your skills that much. And you know him, he seems like a very, very confident guy. So he probably is just on top of the world, living, not thinking too much about it with the hype. And then I think you brought up how you've seen if you can get this guy past the first round, then he may be in some trouble. I think other people maybe start to figure him out a little bit, and maybe he hasn't switched his game up enough just with the confidence and the arrogance that he has. And like I said, this time off with this broken leg, and maybe these last couple fights and stuff can get him thinking like, all right, it's time for a change. It's time to change some things around.
Got Charlo fighting this weekend, man. You got Charlo winning that one.
Uh, isn't that one of the twins, right?
Yeah, fighting on Showtime.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him.
Cool, man. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it. I don't nothing I can think of right now.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I might
what?
have to do that.
Says over there. Aren't they from Texas?
Yeah, they're fighting in San Antonio. That's like 45 minutes from where I live.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. They're from Texas, so I would be surprised they're fighting down there. Who you got for game four? Oh, you told us. You told us. That's right.
Yeah, I might have to go 3-1, man. But if I'm wrong, I'm right. When I'm right, I'm right. When I'm wrong, I could have been right. So I'm still right because I could have been wrong.
Who's your Finals MVP right now? Is it CP or is it Booker?
Oh, if Phoenix wins, CP3.
I mean, if the Bucks win, obviously it's Giannis. I think Giannis may be at the point where, like, even if the Bucks lose, it's gonna be like the LeBron situation where people may consider maybe he should have won it.
Nick Wright already started saying that. He started that whole thing today.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I didn't see that, but I seen that coming already. Where it's like even if they lose, it might be one of those things where people campaign for him to win.
I think that Giannis is like the new guy that he's caping for, with like LeBron like kind of on his way out.
No, I feel like Nick Wright doesn't like KD too much.
Yeah, that's what,
So
like Giannis is like his new guy.
I think he's just gonna go whoever's hyped at the moment. Giannis is going off for 40.
He's gonna end up picking somebody though.
Yeah, maybe, but right now I think he's gonna go off whoever's hyped. I don't remember him talking too great about Giannis like before, but Giannis is going off for 40 now, so I think he's gonna be who's the next hype guy that he's gonna run with. And Skip has been hating on Giannis a lot. I've been watching them. Skip has been hating on Giannis.
That's what he. I think I think it's because he's been rolling with Phoenix for a bit. Well, it's weird that he's hating on Giannis because him and Shannon usually disagree, and Shannon's had the Suns going all the way.
But Shannon's been giving Giannis a lot of credit.
Maybe that's why. Skip says some things that don't make sense sometimes.
That's TV for you.
All right, man. Thank everybody for tuning in. Okay, hope you have a good one, man. If we gotta do these Instagram lives again, man. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. It was a great one. We'll see you guys next time. Look out for that game 4.